Hello everyone, welcome to United and Everything Football. Today I'm joined as usual by my guy Kwame Nchukwuesiako. We do this every week with you and we hope you are enjoying every episode that we are bringing your way. Remember to, as usual, always remember to hit the subscribe button and hit the notification bell as well and enjoy all the goodies that we have for you on this beautiful channel. Kwame, how are you doing? We are back again on the back of a win against Sheffield United.
What can I say? Yeah, a win is a win, I guess. I'll take it.
I hope, and it's been a week of lots of news regarding Manchester United, the ownership. If you remember, we did a quick one on the ownership, so if you could check our previous episode on the issue regarding the ownership of Manchester United and where we've gotten to right now. But in this episode, we will take a quick look at the development that has happened over the period with regards to the ownership of United. We'll also do a quick preview of our game against FC Copenhagen in the Champions League. Are we going to get the Champions League back on track? Are we going to do that? We'll be looking at all of that. And when we come back from this very short break. Thank you for joining us once again and welcome back from our quick break. So yesterday we played against Sheffield United after the international break. After the dramatic win against Brentford, we went into the game against Sheffield United. A lot of our players were out on international duty where they were all on form, some of them scoring goals, some assisting. But yesterday we saw the game against Sheffield United. Not many people were happy with the performance, especially the first half performance, where we felt that we couldn't control the game enough. We didn't do much, in the game to exert ourselves. And once again, the mistakes that happened in the course of the season repeated itself again. We scored, and in 6 minutes we had conceded. We'll be looking at that. But let me get to Kwame. So yesterday we played against Sheffield United. What's your general impression of our approach play or the way we approach the game in the first half and also in the second half? What do you make of the game in general?
All right. So first thing I'd say is we couldn't have picked a better fixture to, bounce back after everything that I'm saying bounce back for the sake of the fans and our mental health. Everything that's happened over the past 2 weeks, over the international break with all the takeover news, and most people were not happy with developments over the break concerning off-field issues. So if the club could choose one game against any opponent to, get a result, like 100% get a result so that, it sort of gives us some break. It's a game against the relegation threatened team like Sheffield United. It was a game we absolutely had to win and we got the job done, but it's how we got the job done. I mean, if you're this poor, there's no better word to use against a team like Sheffield United, and you narrowly get a victory. Right, it speaks volumes as to where we are in terms of the kind of football that we are playing, in terms of our confidence, in terms of everything. Well, how are we going to fare against better opposition? We come up against City in our next league game at home. I honestly, I don't feel confident about it because of developments over the past weeks.
I don't think there are many United fans looking forward to that game
at all. It's almost like deja vu. We've been in this kind of situation so many times over the past few years. The game was, we started poorly, very poor. We conceded, like we ceded possession to Sheffield United. It was quite surprising. We didn't press them at all. We allowed them to play through us. I would say that it's unfortunate that we went into the international break thinking that, by the time that we are back, we'll have a couple of bodies back, especially in defense, who may make a difference. But guess what? We started the game with the same back four that we started with against Brentford in our last game. With Victor Lindelof at left back, he seemed totally out of sorts. Totally, he has no clue what he's doing at left back. Johnny Evans shouldn't even be playing for Manchester United, but he seems to be getting a run of games this early on in the season. Harry Maguire I get to Harry Maguire. And then was it Dalot at right back who got the winning goal for us? That back four cannot hold up against quality opposition. That back four struggled to contain Sheffield United's forwards. So you can imagine that back four against even mid-table opposition. That will be hell. Fine. He gave some good news prior to the game that Rafa Varane it's back. Rafa Varane did make an appearance in the last few minutes, but then the sooner we get some bodies in defense, the better. Exactly. And in midfield, he decided to reward Scott McTominay. I found that a bit bewildering from a manager like Erik ten Hag. I mean, fine, he saved your bum the last time with the winning goal, but then I don't think Scott McTominay, I don't think that justifies actually putting Scott McTominay in the starting 11. If you want to build something, you want to build a team. I think Mason Mount had played well up until, being dropped yesterday. And if you want to build something, you have to play your best players as often as possible. But then he chose to reward McTominay with a start. He got a goal, but then he nullified that goal by conceding a very stupid penalty, a very, very stupid penalty, leaning in, and then what was he doing? I've no clue.
I'm surprised actually. A player of his level of experience, you'd expect a lot more.
That was silly. That was silly. And we also exhibited more profligacy in front of goal. Rasmus Højlund should have had a brace yesterday somehow.
Yeah.
He could not put the ball at the back of the net. Rashford should have had a goal. We hit the post a couple of times. The second half was a slight improvement on the first, but then we just managed to keep possession rather than, show any we did not have any cutting edge. Yes. We didn't have any cutting edge, It's just, moving the ball side to side, keeping possession, going long over the top. But it was Sheffield United, so we're bound to get a break here and there. But then against better opposition, this will not suffice. This will not suffice.
I would want us to look at, for me now, there is a recurrent theme that I'm beginning to notice. It has to do with the fact that we do not press well enough in games. And even if we are pressing, it's a bit disjointed. I was watching the game and the commentator made mention of something I found very, very strange and interesting. Now, Sheffield United is one team that has been pinned into their half a lot more times than any other team in the Premier League. But yesterday against Manchester United, Sheffield United had the energy to have a go at us. Erik ten Hag made mention of the fact that he felt they had slightly tweaked their game plan as against us. And it was true, because you don't normally come gung-ho against any team. But somehow they felt they had a confidence to come at Manchester United. And it's been a recurrent theme where teams feel that, okay, we can have a go at them. We can always try something at them. Isn't it becoming too much of a worrying theme? Because the problems we've seen this season has been very consistent.
Kwame, let me just throw this back at you. If you were a manager of a Premier League team right now, and you see Manchester United's form leading up to a game against your team, and you look at their team sheet on the day, and it's Johnny Evans and Harry Maguire who's been abused. Fair play to Harry Maguire. Yeah? Yesterday was one of his best games. I've seen the stats going around that it's had almost every game he started for Erik ten Hag. He's actually had a very good win percentage. But then that's slightly skewed by the fact that he plays most of the winnable games compared to playing the big games. He's often on the bench for the big, most important games. So those stats are slightly skewed. But if you were a manager and you saw Johnny Evans, 35-year-old Johnny Evans starting, you saw Harry Maguire, who is literally abused and short of confidence on the road, wherever he goes, even sometimes at home. Diego Dalot at right back and Victor Lindelof at left back, and a goalkeeper who has been mistake-prone from the beginning of the season. Would you tell your team to sit back?
Definitely not. Definitely not.
It's just as simple as that. So teams feel they can get something. Like they look at the top 10 teams, the top 16, 6 teams, 10 teams, however you want to look at it, and go like, you know what? If there was one team in there that we could make a result right now, before maybe they turn the corner, it's Manchester United.
That's true.
Exactly. So we are not in a good place. So don't be surprised that teams have a go at us. They should have a go at us.
Absolutely.
You do the same if you're a manager.
Yeah. Absolutely. But I am looking at this from this point of view of the style of play the manager is seeking to implement. Now, the manager in his earlier interviews this season said he wanted us to play quick transition football. And it's something that I see now with our game. When we get the ball, yesterday, anytime Bruno gets the ball, he's trying to pin the ball to Rashford or Højlund or Anthony or any of the players just ahead of him, without necessarily, trying to have a few touches, seeing a bit more openings, trying to thread the ball through or something. And clearly it hasn't been working the way we would want to, because the moment you do that, you quickly there's a quick turnover. And
possession,
exactly. And there's possession is lost. And the moment possession is lost, the other team with the ball becomes a lot more threatening, because we are also not pressing. So one, we are creating a lot more turnovers, and we are not also pressing well to win the ball back. And it's become a recurrent theme that gives teams like Sheffield United, who are pinned to the last position on the league, giving them a lot more confidence, thinking that, hey, we can have a go at this team. And if you're a manager and you've sat back, that's where my problem with Ten Hag comes in. I feel he's trying something this season that is becoming a lot more difficult for him. And I intentionally increased my sample size before making these conclusions, because I wanted to see the number of games. We've played how many games so far in the season? We've played about 9 league games.
11. Yeah.
Let me focus on the league, for instance.
Okay.
We've got 9 league games. We've won 5 out of it and lost 4. We've not drawn any game. Now, you look at the games that we've played, and I can't point to one game where in the league that we've been so comfortable, where we've been so dominant, where you've seen traces or evidence of exactly how we want to play. Yeah, we've had games where you've seen spells where we are playing well, but it's become very difficult, and I find
it's good you brought up the fact that there are spells that we are playing well and then we completely go off.
Yes,
I think it's either this team don't understand completely what the manager is trying to implement, in the sense that, you're teaching us something on the training ground that we are not, grasping to the T, or secondly, they simply cannot do it. I'm somebody who goes extreme. It's either they can do it or they can't do it, because it looks right now like they are trying to do it, but then it's not sustainable. You get what I'm trying to say?
Yes.
A famous manager of ours, not too long ago, said something. He passed out this line. He said, you can either be pregnant, but you cannot be half pregnant. It's either you're full pregnant or you're not. It goes like that. I'm talking about Ralph Rangnick.
Yes.
So that's the sort of situation we find ourselves with what Erik Ten Hag is trying to push us to do this season. If you're going to push up or you're going to press high, whether it's Johnny Evans at the back or Harry Maguire at the back, the principles must remain the same. You push up, you have your center backs playing one-on-one, you have your full backs pushing up high in the press, right, in order to be able to counter press properly. But here's the case where we don't push our full backs up high to counter press quickly. Teams just switch the ball wide to either their fullback or their winger so easily. Our center backs aren't pushing up high and taking on, playing rest defense and being very tight on the center forwards. It's almost like everybody is doing things half and half.
Yes.
The team isn't in sync when it comes to how they are trying to approach the team. You have your forwards pressing high, and then the midfield or the defense especially does not follow up.
That's true.
So we are just caught in a half and half situation, and it makes us easy to play through.
Yes.
That's one thing. And it makes us look very, very vulnerable. So sometimes the team feels like, for instance, yesterday in the first half, we barely pressed. We just sat back and ceded position to Sheffield United, which I found baffling. And it's just been symptomatic of our season so far. They either don't totally understand what the manager is trying to teach them, or they simply, the kind of players you've assembled simply cannot do it.
And I find
I would have said something different if, for instance, we hadn't seen it from the very start. Because he had Varane from the very start, he had Martinez from the very start, Wan-Bissaka and Shaw, and yet that style of football did not transmit. We did not see it. Albeit the sample size for that back four is small.
Yes,
exactly. Since then, we've had a decimated back four, so he could turn to that as an excuse. I mean, who would risk always playing Johnny Evans and Harry Maguire at the halfway line? They do not have the power to actually recover.
That's it.
For instance, like if they have to go turn around and chase, they're not catching up with any forward in the league.
Yes.
So you are caught in between, do you really want to push them forward, or do you really want to, have them, deep a bit to cover up for their flaws? But it points to the flaws in our squad.
Yeah.
It exposes the flaws in our squad. There are some players that cannot play the type of football that he wants to play. Yet they are still at Manchester United. If some players' personal attributes are going to be at the detriment of the team, yet they have to play this many minutes, then it's almost going to be impossible for you to be able to play the kind of football that you want to play. So that's where we are as a club right now.
But what do we do now? I mean, if you've watched the team over this period, if in your opinion, what needs to change? Because for me, where I sit, I think it's a coaching problem. It's rather exposing the flaws of certain players rather than projecting their qualities. I mean, when you do a SWOT analysis and you realize there are strengths and weaknesses, right? What you do is that you maximize the strength and you reduce the weakness. What must we do? Because clearly, you look at a player like Casemiro. Casemiro's flaws keeps being highlighted because of this style of play that we are playing. So he keeps getting exposed, and he keeps getting players to get past him because they are gapping holes just next to him, right? You look at players like Johnny Evans and Harry Maguire. You push up, you play the ball in behind, they find it very difficult to raise back. We've conceded a lot of goals from cutbacks. Clearly, there are lapse of concentration that leads to players losing themselves. We conceding goals right after scoring, right? What do we need to do?
All right. So what he has to do, right, is look at things in two ways.
Okay.
I was saying it in our group chat that it's either he decides to be stubborn and say, you know what, this is a process. And the sooner I imbibe this sort of idea into the team, as time goes on, as I make changes to this team, with the philosophy already established over a longer period of time, that will have long-term benefits for what I'm trying to do. That's one way to look at it. And that means that you are going to lose a lot of games. I bring this up because I compared in the group chat again to Arteta's period at Arsenal. When he did start at Arsenal, within the first 3-4 months, leading up to their FA Cup triumph, you could see the kind of football that he wanted to play right away. The following season, when he wanted to press on with how he wants to play, clearly there are some players in the team that could not do it. There were disciplinary issues.
They didn't have the facilities to be able to
do it. But he did not change his philosophy. He still pressed on, sacrificed results, basically, took all the backlash, yet they backed him. Arsenal backed him to, turn the corner over the course of a period. And within a year and a half after taking charge, when he had the ability to be able to change most of these players, you could see his football come together a couple of seasons ago. And last season, it's it almost resulted in a title charge. So Erik ten Hag could look at things from that perspective. The other perspective is to go like, you know what, Manchester United, there's a lot of pressure. And the pressure comes from the fact that whenever there are bad results, there are bad form, we're in bad form, everything is completely blown up. The media, everything. And it actually affects the team even more. So do you prioritize results? And in order to prioritize results, you have to do what he did last season, very early on last season, and go like, you know what I want to do cannot work right now. I got it wrong. My analysis was wrong in terms of, I've brought some players together thinking that we can kick on this season, but hey, I think I need a bit more time. It's not working. So let me backtrack. Play a more stable formation. When I say stable formation, be more compact, play a bit deeper, play to the player's strength, get results, build some confidence, keep the season relevant. Keep the season relevant. And in the second half of the season, when there are things to play for, we kick on from there. And then the following season, when I get more money in the transfer, I get more players I get more new players in. That understand my philosophy, that have the physical capabilities to play the way that I want to, then we kick on from there. So it's one of two ways, but it's down to the manager to make that decision as to what route best suits now. Exactly. But it's solely the manager's decision. It's a hard place to be if I were him. I wouldn't want to be in the shoes. But he has to make that decision. Long-term benefits at the expense of results, or change his philosophy, his mind completely, and then get results now.
All right. Okay. So that's Kwame's assessment. So there are two routes: stick to what you are doing till it works, or prioritize results and then switch to doing things that is likely to get you the results that you want to, based on the materials that you have. All right. So let's quickly.
That's a good summary, actually.
Yeah. Let's quickly zoom straight into our Champions League game against Copenhagen, and let's look at our hopes. Now, we've lost our first two games against Bayern Munich and against Galatasaray. Now, Galatasaray have 4 points. Bayern Munich are on 6 points. We are on 0. Copenhagen has 1 because they drew 2-2 against Galatasaray in Turkey. Now, we have to find a way to get our Champions League football back on track. As it stands, it's not looking good because the teams that we are competing with, some have taken off, others are also, putting themselves in better positions than we do. Now, what must we do, Kwame? We have Copenhagen to play home and away. Someone will say it is a non-negotiable 6-pointer. Non-negotiable. However, or whatever you have to do to win, you have to do to win. And pray that some way, somehow, Bayern Munich also do a thing over Galatasaray for you, so you could put yourself in a better situation. Or you at least getting a draw from both games to ensure that you put yourself in a very good position and all of that. But Kwame, let's look at the game against Copenhagen. How do we salvage our Champions League hopes?
We are very, very fortunate with the sequence of games in this group, honestly. If it wasn't for the sequence of games, and probably we had to, play any other team in the group aside Copenhagen, would have been in trouble. But then the back-to-back games against supposedly the weakest team in the group offers us a chance of recovery.
That's true.
Non-negotiable. I don't care how we win at this point because we're not playing well. Just like we did against Sheffield United yesterday, we have to find a way of winning those two games. I feel if we drop points in either games, that's it for the group. We are playing Europa League football. But if we do pull off a couple of wins, what it does is it puts us on 6 points. Galatasaray on 4 points. Right? If Galatasaray manage a point, that hopefully that's the best they can do against Bayern Munich. That puts them on 5. That will put them actually behind us in the group, leading up to the game in Turkey, which we simply have to avoid defeat and then come home and then hopefully close things out against Bayern Munich maybe. But then if we do win in Turkey, that would automatically qualify us based on the scenario that I've just spoken about. So we win and hopefully Bayern do a double over Galatasaray, or even at least get 4 points from Galatasaray. So Galatasaray will be behind us by the time that we face off against them in Turkey, in which would be the group decider, basically. We have to go to Turkey and win and qualify from. We've put ourselves in a very, very bad situation with the 2 defeats to start the group, but it's still salvageable. Let's just see how it goes.
How do we approach that game? I mean, in terms of
it's Copenhagen. I honestly haven't seen Copenhagen. I have not watched a single game of Copenhagen in the group. I think Bayern Munich scraped a 2-1 win in Denmark, and they drew in Turkey 2-2. So I don't think they are pushovers. They have put up respectable performances based on the results that I've seen. So it's not going to be easy. No game is easy for United these days. And it doesn't matter which team we are playing. Every game seems to be a tough hurdle to climb. So I'm not going to say it's Copenhagen's we are going to roll over them. I'm not going to predict how we are going to play. But I think based on how important this game is and how crucial a win is,
we must do whatever
we have to do whatever it takes to win
this game.
We just have to do whatever it takes to win.
It's very important. So you've made mention of the sequence of games being to advantage, and I feel it's something that we need to take advantage of in terms of the quality of the opposition, the nature of the opposition. So Copenhagen, Galatasaray. I feel the Galatasaray game in at Old Trafford was quite unfortunate. Things just went. I just can't explain that game. I mean, it's one of those.
After 70 minutes when we took the lead, I thought we were even going to score 3 or 4.
It's one of those games that makes me believe in the arguments people make that we are cursed, because I just don't know how things turned around in that game. Some way, somehow, we should have, between the 45th minute to the 75th minute or 70th minute, we should have been up by 5-1. Given the nature and the quality of football we played on that day. However, we just couldn't find ourselves doing anyway. So, Kwame, thank you very much on that. Now, last week, or if you check our last video before this one, we talked about a very important issue regarding the ownership of United. So, last year, November, the Glazer family put out a release, the owners of the club, that they were looking at strategic alternatives. Gone through the process. We are approaching November, so it's almost a year since we got into this whole issue of whether the club is going to be sold, whether someone is going to get minority stake. Now, rumors or news that has come up has to do with Sir Jim Ratcliffe winning the race some way, somehow, to get a bite of the whole share. And he's been, now the details have come out, and some of the details has to do with the fact that he's likely to be in charge of the sporting arm of the club, trying to revitalize that sporting arm, which is the most important aspect of the club, something the Glazers haven't been able to do over the last 10 years. Okay, so it has seen us dropping down in terms of the top quality teams in the whole of England. We are no more what we used to be now. Kwame, you've heard the news. You've analyzed all the scenarios. We don't have enough time to delve deep, but let's viewers, I can promise you there is a short video we are doing for you. Just watch out for it on the ownership of United. We'll just give you the history of how we've gotten, where we've come from and where we've gotten to right now. But Kwame, let me quickly get to you. Now the details are out. I don't know which angle you want to take it from, but do you think it's a good or great idea for Ratcliffe, or a smart idea from Ratcliffe to tackle the sporting arm? I mean, I think he's being very smart, because he knows that the sporting arm hasn't been performing very well. So in order to get into the heart of the fans, let me touch that base first before I move on to other.
Actually, the most important arm of the football club.
Yes. So what do you think of this?
All right. So I did say I'd rather the Glazers stay than said Jimmy Ratcliffe take over as the owner of the football club. But then I said that with the premise that I was almost certain that Sheikh Yazim was going to take over. But then what Sir Jimmy Ratcliffe has done is give us the only chance at this point of the Glazers actually leaving. He's the only option.
Yes.
So at the end of the day, if United fans being with the Glazers is that they should not be owners of Manchester United anymore. Sir Jim Ratcliffe offers the only alternative to the Glazers at this point. It may take 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, but then the word out there is it's almost certain that he is looking to fully take over the club. If you are going to own a house on credit, I took this narrative from the Muppeteers. They did a very good one with this analogy. That what the reason why the Glazers would probably take his offer over that of Sheikh Yazim is if you're going to buy a house on credit or on a mortgage, you are going to end up paying far more.
That's true.
For that house than if you're actually paying cash now. And the Glazers have always been about filling their pockets. So at the end of the day, it's going to look like Sir Jimmy Ratcliffe's total sum that he's going to pay for the football club is going to supersede that of what the Qataris were offering. And if that's going to be the case, if the house is going to belong to you, you must as well start putting in your own, form of decorations or fixing your own, doing your own plumbing work. If you think the plumbing work at the present house isn't good enough, if you think the curtains aren't good enough, if you think the rooms aren't big enough, you must as well start expanding the rooms. After all, in a few years, that house is going to be 100% yours. If you start doing the decoration in the house now, it won't hurt. After all, it's still going to be your property anyway. So if he thinks he has to start fixing Manchester United before he even fully buys out the house. And he thinks the most important part is, you know what, maybe this and this and this are the most important structures in the house and need to be fixed now. Then fixing the sporting aspect of Manchester United is not the worst place to start. After all, the Glazers have not done a good job at all at handling that, especially post Sir Alex Ferguson. So many fans have spoken that in the past that we've not appointed the right people on the sporting side of things. We have Meto, who has barely any experience at the top level in terms of being a director of football. So if he comes in right now and then appoints somebody like Michael Edwards or Paul Mitchell, it's the same thing the fans were talking about and craving for some time ago. And here's the case where he's going to put his own money into the football club. He's going to invest, especially on the sporting side for starters. So I don't think it's the worst situation in the world. This takeover process, in all honesty, is not abnormal. It's actually a norm where people buy shares to start with, and over a very short period of time, with the intention of fully taking over, they buy more shares, and sometimes are even obliged if they have a certain amount of shares to take over the full club. The Glazers did it and then took over Manchester United. So this is not abnormal. Although the best form over the past few years has been total takeovers, especially by, the Arabs of football clubs. And then we know how they quickly transform things. So we're all craving for that, but this is not out of place.
Out of place. All right. Okay. So we don't have enough time to get into that details. We have just about 2 minutes to go. But quickly, what's your general expectation? Where do you think you should start from? Clearly, if Sir Jim Ratcliffe should come in right now, there's likely going to be changes as the news has been. Do you think Mertok should move away? Do you think he should bring his own people to start the whole process and everything?
Of course, he should bring his own people. He should bring his own people. I think he's afforded mistakes in his previous football club. That is Nice. Nice is actually doing well right now after various changes at the football club. I think that's prepared him enough in terms of who he needs and what he needs to be able to make very good changes at a football club like ours. So let's just give him the benefit of the doubt and see the kind of men that he brings in. But then we need a proper technical director of football, whichever word you want to put it. We know the best out there. We should get the best in class for a team like Manchester United. So he should start from there.
Okay. Kwame, as usual, it's been a pleasure having you, as always, on United and Everything Football. As I've said, we are doing something on the ownership of Manchester United that will be dropping very, 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 very soon. So please hit the subscribe button and please hit the notification bell. Search that. The moment it drops, it gets straight to your phone. You log in and you'll be able to watch everything on this channel, United and Everything Football. Thank you so much, Kwame, for joining us, and thank you for watching. And we hope that you've enjoyed today's episode. We hope that the next time we record, United have won against Copenhagen. And then we are preparing for the game against Manchester City.
The big one.
So much looking forward to. But we still have to do it regardless. All right, thank you very much, and thanks for your time this week. Have a great time.